Hey everyone, I'm Brian Austin Green.
I'm Sharna Burgess.
And I'm Randy Spelling.
And you are listening to Oldish, an iHeartRadio podcast.
We're going to get into the episode today with a cup of tea and a flannel. It's full fall over here.
So great.
Oh, Randy, I love that for you.
That's so amazing.
It's full sun and zero clouds out here in LA.
No, it was a little, I said something about it this morning. It was a little colder. I mean, it's not cold. It's not cold.
It's not
No one's wearing a
coldish.
flannel over here.
No, it's not
coldish.
But we got outside and I was like, ooh, this feels nice. Like it's not this crazy the heat has just been so insane.
Well,
that
no.
we're dealing with.
Randy, how was your week though? Have you done Halloween costumes or decorations around the house? What's happening?
Oh, we're so late with the decorations this year. There's just been so much going on that we haven't put them up yet, but Halloween is in full swing in terms of costumes. What about you two?
Yeah, we've got some decorations
Yeah,
up.
we're
decorating.
getting there. I mean, our costumes, we're always kind of kicking around what makes the most sense for Halloween. We have now settled on, we have found fangs.
We're going to be vampires.
Like vampire fangs.
Wear black and clip in some fangs.
That are really good ones that you sort of like, you hold on your teeth and it creates a mold inside and then it dries and then you can just snap them on and off your teeth. So they're good ones, but then we can wear normal clothes with them and just be like, yeah, we're a vampire family.
Okay,
Yeah,
so maybe
keeps
we
it
have
easy.
to clarify, when you're saying we're not talking kids, we're talking you and
No,
Sharna.
Sharna.
Yeah, Brian and I are
and Noah
vampires.
too. Noah is
Wants to
wearing-
be a vampire, yeah.
Yeah, wearing
But
fangs
Bodhi
as
and
well.
Joni have got all sorts of different things going on.
Zane, I think we're talking about dressing him up as a bat.
Yeah,
right? As
be a bat. You know, if we're
as a baby
vampires, he
bat.
can be a baby
Right,
bat.
Yeah. So we'll be carrying a bat around as we're vampires.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's adorable.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
ready
cute.
for it.
Have you seen those dog costumes? Because clearly
they're
you could
so
do that
good.
with where the legs are
Yes.
sort of moving,
They're
so it
so
looks
good.
like they're standing.
The hands are hanging off
Oh
the
my
side.
God,
They've got
I
like
love them.
with a knife, and it looks like Chucky, or it looks it's like running across the room. It looks ridiculous.
They are. We actually haven't ordered one of those, but I really want to because I love them. I'm obsessed with those videos.
I see those all online everywhere. You know, I don't know if you get this, but I swear someone's listening, because I'll mention a costume. I'll say this, and guaranteed tonight I'm going to go on social media and somehow I'm going to scroll and there's going to be a little Chucky dog costume that's going to float by.
For
with a
sure.
link.
This has been happening for years.
Yeah, no,
Randy.
it's social. I mean, media in general, but social media is really good at listening in and picking up cues and then running with algorithms and making something that seems completely custom tailored to you, but is taking all of your money at the same time.
I love a good Halloween costume. I think, what do you think it is about Halloween costumes? Everyone gets so into it. And I think now it's different for me because it's like kids. So I want them to have an amazing time. But I think previously it was all about some sort of cool costume that I could post on social media and people would get excited about. Or I would do this crazy like skull makeup on my face that was super fun. And, posting that and seeing how much people love it was really cool. But do you think people put too much thought into what their costume is for like social media reactions?
Yes. I mean,
like it's all about that, right? What other people think?
yeah, absolutely. I think I can't say that for everyone as a blanket statement, but I think nowadays there is. I mean, just going outside and having an experience and then thinking, oh, I need to get this on camera because I have to share this and this is going to get more likes or follows or someone's going to see this.
Right.
And I don't know. I think there is a tendency to live life outwardly now versus inward. What do you
It's
think?
so crazy because I watch the kids, right, get so excited about these costumes and they're just things that they like. They do not care what other people think of them. It is just things that they like, shows that they like, characters they want to dress up as, and that is enough for them. That pure enjoyment of having that costume. And I look at that and I'm like, man, I love that. I love them being able to be so organically and authentically excited about something that makes them happy without this worry of what other people are going to think of it or how many people are going to like it. Just the fact that they get to dress up as Freddy Fazbear or whatever from Five Nights at Freddy's. So, I don't know if I said that right, but like super excited. Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. And somewhere along the line, we lose that. We start to care what other people think too much.
Which brings us into our topic today that we're
Yeah,
going to
it
get
does.
into is, the effects of living life this way, the effects of social media, the augmentations that are happening, whether it's plastic surgery, whether it's,
Filters.
Botox, fillers, filters,
Yes.
just, oldish. I mean, the podcast is called Oldish, and I kind of do feel like we're in this race. Look, there's the longevity of wanting to live longer, but then there's this idea that we can't get older. And I think that is something that deserves to be discussed because children, young teenagers are doing this stuff. They're seeing it on social media because that's just what everybody is doing. Now, I'm not here to judge what people are doing. I think it's really important to have a conversation about it so we can know how to approach it in the healthiest way.
Right. Yeah, it's a really big conversation as far as like what effects social media has on people's self-worth and self-image, right? I think anyone that spends so much time scrolling and looking at everyone else's highlight reel or highly filtered and edited photos and curated moments of what they're doing starts to compare themselves to it, starts to compare the whole of their life or whatever they see to it. And that's so unfair because truthfully, I don't think half of what's on there is real. And I think we're getting a little bit better at it. I definitely see a lot more celebrities, influencers going for the more natural and I'm aging approach. Jamie Lee Curtis is an advocate for that. We just saw Pamela Anderson at New York Fashion Week, completely barefaced, and it was so beautiful to see that.
So refreshing.
So refreshing and so brave from her. And I definitely see, even in my friend circle of people that used to use a lot of filters that now no longer use those filters, getting more confident with just being themselves on camera and on social media. So I love that is slowly changing. But I do believe that a lot of damage has already been done, that beauty trends get created and people are having surgeries in their teen years to get or fillers in their nose to make it a pixie nose or a specific type of chin or jaw just so they can fit into this beauty trend. And I think that is, or whatever the filter made them look like. And that I think is just so horrendous for the growth of our kids and the mental health of them. Kids or adults, to be honest. I think as an overall, it's a real big struggle to be able to look at all these things on social media and hold on to your own, oh no, I'm beautiful the way I am, when everyone else is changing what they look like.
Exactly.
I think the thing that's hard too is people seem to be on such an anti-aging trip, but the reality is you're going to age regardless. Like you can fight it and fight it and fight it, but you're going to age. So it then becomes about what is important to you later on in life. For me, my health is of the absolute utmost important in my life. With my kids, with Sharna, I want to be here and present as long as I can. Looks and just parts of aging, that is just going to happen whether I want it to or not. I feel sometimes like people fight it to the point where the body doesn't even then know how to age properly with things that have been done. And so people start battling work that they've already done, trying to go against aging naturally. And the body doesn't know what to do with what it is they've done already. It's a very slippery slope. It seems like you see people who are doing things in the name of not even so much anti-aging, of being proactive and trying to maintain their youth, and they end up doing this sort of irreparable damage that they're then running through and chasing and trying to fix. Just from my view.
Yeah. So Brian, I'm sure there's so many people who are going to go, okay, I get this, right? From a conceptual standpoint, it's like, okay, we're going to age. We're all going through this. And, side note, I really do want to start to make oldish cool. like really, because if you look at past societies, and even now, right, you look at different small societies, communities, tribes, the elders are respected. The elders have wisdom when children were born, they're also helped and raised by the elders. There's a respect, there's an experience factor that's there. But in this day and age, with the race of I cannot look my age because everyone around me is doing all this stuff, it is hard to then embrace that. So, so I do kind of want to make oldish cool. But for all the people who are going, okay, it's easy for you to say though. Like for us, we're men. It might be a little bit easier to age. But I think for women, it's even harder because there's just so much pressure to look a certain way. Sharna, how do you speak to that?
Oh my God, there's a complete double standard everywhere when it comes to aging. You can be a sexy older man, but how often do you hear that about women? We just talked about this morning when it comes to even the TV and film industry. Often older men are, as they get older, they get hotter or they get whatever, silver fox, and they get labeled as all these things. Often when women get older, they get less and less roles because they've got younger women playing both younger and older because that's harder to look at. There is a double standard when it comes to it. And so I think it's really hard, but I think there are people trying to also embrace the beauty of aging and be great examples for it too. But listen, it's a really difficult subject to touch on. We've made great advances in things that you can do with skincare, with non-invasive procedures, with things, and they are very expensive, right? So not everyone has access to them, but you can do things as preventative to help you continue to grow collagen in your skin, to help you stay younger. I certainly do them. You know what I mean? I do a lot of laser treatments on my skin. First, it was to take away the acne scarring from cystic acne that I had. And now it is to help with the tightening. I recently had a Morpheus treatment that I even shared on my Instagram account because it helps with the tightening in the muscles underneath the skin because I notice those signs of aging. And I am in an industry where my face is partly my moneymaker. And so I guess in some way I do feel that I want to slow the aging process as long as possible. But I also don't believe that there is anything wrong with that now that we have access to it. Where I see that it goes into the negative is when people can't stop, when they're trying to achieve something that is like trying to reverse a clock or change the way their face looks or become something that they aren't naturally. You know what I mean? I just want to pause the aging process. I don't want to go back in time and I don't want to make anything different about myself. I just want to pause it for as long as possible. But I do agree that it can be a slippery slope with once you start one thing and then you see this thing and but that person got filler under their eyes and it took away the dark circles, and then that person got filler in their lips and it took it, and then you normalize the adding things and doing things to your face. And that's where I think it does get, for not all, but for some people, become that slippery slope of where there's never enough, constantly chasing the unachievable, unattainable.
What do you think happens? Can you talk someone through how this comes about? Is it first just a thought, or is it seeing other people and seeing what they're doing? What are the pitfalls to this where it's like all of a sudden, you're having this conversation with yourself, oh, maybe I should make an appointment. Oh, maybe I should change something. How does that happen?
I think it's, when we fall into that place of comparison. You're comparing yourself to someone else that is seemingly your age or older than you, and you're like, oh, but I don't look like that. And again, we go back to things like social media where there are filters and apps for people to edit and all sorts of things. And you start to compare what you're seeing in the mirror, raw and unfiltered, to what you're seeing on a screen, heavily filtered and edited. And I think that can be really difficult. Or for some people, again, I think this is very nuanced and different for everybody. I think it can stem from many different places. But, some people watch certain TV shows that almost glorify plastic surgery and the way that people have morphed and changed into seemingly different human beings. You know what I mean? And go, oh, I want to look like that. And that becomes a trend. Like, what is this BBL? You know what I mean? Like tiny, tiny women going and getting a huge butt that was never made for their frame, and it looks crazy on them.
What is a BBL?
Brazilian butt
Brazilian butt lift. I
Yeah,
think
Brazilian
it is,
butt
right?
lift. I think where they
Brazilian
lift
butt
it and
lift.
shape
Brazilian butt lift, yes.
it. Lift it and shape it. I think I'm saying that right, but I know it's like BBL, and I think that's where they also inject whatever they do or implants. That's wild to me. That's like what happens when that goes out of fashion?
Yeah,
you know?
that's the problem is so many things tend to follow along like a trend line.
trend, yeah.
And then as soon as it's on to the next trend, then what do you do?
What do you do
then
after
Then
that?
you're stuck with all these things that were popular then, but they're not so much now. And so now you're trying to undo those things, but then you're having to correct the problems that were created in doing those things in the first place. It becomes just this like wheel that you're on constantly. And it feels like once you start, you can't stop because you have put into motion something that is, there really is no end to. It's like I was saying, you do these things now, to slow down the aging process, but the aging process is still going to happen. So then what happens when you get to the point where you're now within that aging process, but your body is going, I don't know how to age with the things that you've done. And so then you're starting to try to undo those things you're trying to compensate with those.
Yeah,
and it just becomes this,
I think you often hear about women that got older and they're like, oh, I had to take out my breast implants, and not that I think there's anything wrong with them. I think if we were to have more kids, I would probably at the end of that say, I might want to get my boobs done. You know what I mean? I completely support women in wanting to do things for themselves. But it isn't unheard of when you hear people that get down the line and they've done these trends that they at some point regret them, or they're having them removed if that's even possible.
right.
But it's tough. Like there are women out here getting their jaws broken and reformed just so they can have a particular jaw shape. And
I know.
it's a lot, and I think that's because something along the line, they saw something that made them feel like they weren't beautiful and they weren't enough. And so they go to these extreme lengths and very expensive lengths to change that in the pursuit of what and for who? Is it for themselves? Or is it because it's forced? They think that someone else will prefer it. I think there's many different layers to the questions that you could ask yourself, or anyone could ask themselves when it comes to this.
Yeah, and I think a great question is, because I've talked to many people over the years about this, is this going to change the feeling that I have inside about myself? So if you don't feel enough, getting an enhancement of some sort, I'm not saying it's not going to help, because it very well could, right?
For some, absolutely, yeah.
People lose weight, people are insecure about some part of their face or their body, and then that changes and they feel good about themselves. But usually it's temporary, in the sense of that not enoughness doesn't just go away because there's something cosmetic that's done. It is short-lived until either something else gets focused on, like, oh, my chin now, or oh, my eyes, until that not enoughness changes inside of them, until that conversation changes where they look at themselves and say, I feel good about myself. I'm no longer going to compare to the people that I'm comparing to. If that doesn't change, the outer cosmetics just seem to keep happening.
So how do you do that in
How
a
do you
world
differentiate?
because
right?
you go on, for anyone, you can, and there never used to be access to things like this, right? You can go on Instagram and literally choose a filter that will change your face to whatever you want it to be. A more angled or a slimmer jaw, a tiny little nose, thicker eyebrows, bigger lips, like bigger eyes, whatever, all these things, a lower hairline, all these surgeries that people get done. You can test them out on a filter, and it's probably not even realistic of what it would look like on you, because I'm
Right.
sure a doctor didn't create that. But people go on there and now see their faces with these, they would see them as improvements, these changes that have been made, and they go, I want to do that because that's what, I don't know, Margot Robbie has, or that's what they're looking at someone else that is successful, maybe living a life that they would love to live, or feelings that they would love to feel. And so they're trying to, I don't know, chase that by doing these things. How do you stop comparing yourself on social media or exploring the ideas of these filters?
I'm sure there are many ways. I think one of the biggest things to do first and foremost is pattern interrupt. It's becoming aware. It's having this conversation, and hopefully someone, listens to this and says, "Oh, okay, I need to be aware of what I'm doing." So the problem, and it's not just social media. Look, social media is a mirror for society. If you look at it like that, it's a microcosm of the macro. So it's just showing where everyone's at and trends and what we're doing, but it also has the algorithm thrown in. But it's not, you could have a very positive experience on social if you're using it in the best, healthiest way possible. But most of us, me included, I'm just scrolling.
Doom scrolling. Yeah.
Scrolling. I'm the effect of what I'm seeing. So everything I'm seeing, even if I'm passing by, within milliseconds, my brain is firing thoughts. Oh, that person's on vacation. Oh, it must be nice to have so much money. Gosh, I'm so tired, and that person has help and I don't. I'm never going to get there. Oh, they look so great in a bathing suit. That's never going to happen for me. And within 30 seconds, you've now had 20 different thoughts to tell you how you're not enough, why you aren't good, how it, what you want is never going to happen for you, and how ugly you are, right?
Yeah, it's confirming all of your insecurities.
It's confirming all of your insecurities, and it's happening so quickly. So I think the first step is just becoming aware when I'm going on here, this is happening. Your thoughts can change if you're actually aware of the process. So you might go on there, and after a minute or two, you go, "Oh, wait, I don't want to see these same things. I'm going to put this down." I had a client yesterday tell me that they deleted Instagram because they were spending too much time on it and they weren't feeling good. That might not be the answer for everyone, but I think it's so great to look at what is happening through the process of me comparing to other people, in the quick scroll of social.
Right. Yeah, it's a really hard subject. I also don't want to make it seem as though I'm not in support of people that do these things. We're talking about when it's a slippery slope and things go too far. I was talking to someone the other day that used to have a chin very far set back, and she had a surgery to bring it forward. It's unbelievably natural, and it has made her feel so confident in her life as an adult, and it changed her life. It made her feel better.
How do you distinguish though between wanting to make those changes and then what we're talking about, just going down that slippery slope and doing too much?
I think that is a case-by-case basis. I think it's maybe looking at why you're wanting to do these things. And if you're really talking about doing something to your entire, like your whole body, like people do multiple on multiple, if you have a pattern of going in constantly, there's something to look at. I don't know where that line is. I think it's each person is different.
Questioning. I mean, talking to someone one or two times, right? Maybe a professional of some sort, and really exploring, why do I want to do this? Why am I doing this? What am I hoping to get out of it? What do I think I'm going to feel after I have this? Is it going to change what I really want changed in my life? That subset of questions is really important to arrive at answers, to then go, okay, look, I've explored this in depth. Maybe I don't need to do 4 things. This one thing, though, I've wanted
important.
this since I was little. It's really important. The chin, I really want that forward. Okay, then that's okay. Again, we're not here to judge anyone, but it's having this conversation, both as parents of children and how to talk to our children about this, which we're going to get into, and also with us aging, right? As well as all of our listeners. I'm sure we're all having thoughts of, oh gosh, my eyebrows are changing, my hairline's changing, my, something's sagging. I didn't see that 2 weeks ago. How to reconcile this in the healthiest way where we feel good about ourselves moving forward, whether it's doing something, if you decide to do that, or not.
Right. I think something that you said is a really important thing to dive into, and that is how we, the language we use about ourselves around our kids. You know, that like you notice something sagging, but saying that to your kids, like my mum is an incredible woman. But I've heard about her insecurities with her body or her shape or her this my whole life, because she's always had very critical language about herself. She's always been very tough on herself about lots of things. And I say this with so much deep love. But there was always oh, look at this. Oh, I'm getting fat. Oh, I've got cellulite. There was always something in a negative tone. And again, I think that's a generational thing. You know what I mean? She was of that Twiggy era when it was all supposed to be that way. And I think that imprinted on me, having that negative language about body. Absolutely, over the years, the only reason I didn't end up with a boob job in my 20s was because I saw someone else get one that was also muscular like me, and it looked like a bodybuilder. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I don't want that. And it was the only reason why I didn't. But other than that, I was under this impression that I wanted bigger breasts because other people had them and it looked like it was feminine and attractive, right? I was influenced by these things. My mum is a small-breasted woman. You know what I mean? Like these things transferred onto me. I remember a term that she says, thunder thighs, about having bigger thighs, right? And so I've always had, and she never said it about me, ever, ever, ever. But I put that language on myself in talking about these things.
She made you aware.
I'm aware of it. So at some point in my life, it was like, oh, should I get like liposuction so I can have the gap between my legs, like, you know, like other people have. My body ain't built that way. But I certainly think that, and this is before social media, right? This was in a time when it was, my mum was my representation of language about her body. And so I think it's really important for us to focus on in the home, not just for our kids, but also for ourselves. The language that we use in the mirror, the language that we use around our kids about the way our bodies are changing and forming and shaping. You know, mommy, what is that? Cellulite. And you're like, oh, you know, make something cute about it. I've read stories about mums that have made cute stories about it. Laugh lines and smile lines because you make me so happy. Like find something beautiful to change that language, even while you're internally working on accepting those things about your body. But having a positive language for yourself, for your kids, I think is such an important thing. And I know we're going to get into like kids and social media and all of that. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point. I think that's really important, your language.
It's so important. It's a great point. And I think we could all benefit from that, right? It's whether there are kids around or not, how we speak to ourselves, how we look at ourselves in the mirror. I mean, if we're in the mirror picking apart everything that's wrong, imagine being the partner of that. If your partner is picking apart everything that's wrong about you, that relationship isn't going to last long, or it's going to be very damaged. Yet we're doing this to ourselves in some ways all the time, and it's completely under the radar because it's inside of our heads.
Yeah, it's so, the what is that? The Worst Roommate, The Untethered Soul. Have you read that?
Yeah, by Michael Singer.
Michael Singer, the worst roommate in the world that lives inside your head and the relationship that you can have with them. It's absolutely that. This other voice that says these things to you. Oh, didn't you see so-and-so? They had this, or they had that, or look how skinny so-and-so is, or someone else had this done and it made it look like that. And it's constantly, you know, the what do we call that? The monkey brain of it going on in there, the wheel just constantly turning. Right. Yep. You have to have a different relationship with that voice for sure.
It's a bit of like reprogramming. It's a bit of forcing yourself to look in the mirror, and instead of calling all the negative things, trying to find all the things that you really love about yourself and getting yourself in that habit of doing that in reverse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In life. Period.
In life.
Yeah.
Randy, do your girls talk to you about these sorts of things? Do they ever have questions about what they see or what people do to their like surgeries and plastic surgery or filters or their experience with it?
Yes. We talk about this quite a bit because they're seeing it. They see it around. And so, of course, they have questions. And this has been a topic of discussion because if we don't talk about it, they're taking that in and then making their own assessment, that's who you need to be, or that's beautiful, or that's someone who has done something to themselves, and then they look like the filter, and now that person's flawless, and they're looking at them saying, oh, well, I'm not that way, so I have to be like that. So we talk about this a lot, and I've been candid with them. I will tell them that sometimes it really hurts my heart to see people change themselves in such a drastic way. And that's true. And I think over the years, we see celebrities doing things, and sometimes it gets really extreme. We look at filters, or people go to the plastic surgeons, and they'll say, you could do this, you could do that, it could be this. So you get this idea of how it could be. They're major surgeries and operations with the human body, where it's not like a 3D print version where you get what you put in. It's like there's scarring, there's keloiding, there's changes that people can have, and it can go wrong, or it can go different, and there's no guarantee that you're going to get what you set out to get. But that's not always, when people are going in, they're gung-ho. And then, I think Courtney Cox said something recently. She said, I have slowed down, or I've stopped. I didn't realize how out of hand I was getting. I didn't see it. I didn't recognize in the mirror.
The slow build of it. They're slowly seeing their face change, and then that amount isn't enough, and then they need to do more. What is it? The frog in boiling water? The slowly boiling
water.
I get that. How they don't see how far they've come or gone with it. It's a lot. And it just, there's more and more. And I think there's also that with some doctors that do these procedures. It's like, isn't there some sort of, not due diligence, but integrity, where it's like, you've done enough. I can't possibly do this. This is borderline unhealthy now, and I can't actually perform this surgery or put this extra syringe or whatever it is into your face.
That's an accountability, though.
Accountability, right? I mean,
I don't.
Not that it's their fault. This person goes there with wanting it.
It's true.
I get that too. But God, at some point, do they turn around and be like, and I'm sure they do. I'm sure there are many doctors that turn around and go, I can't touch you. You know what I mean? This is not smart or not healthy. But it is a shame that there are still doctors that I think will continue to do more and more and more simply because a person wants it.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to throw out a few words, and let's just sort of free associate. Tell me what you think about it, or how people can interact with these things in different ways. Okay. So number one, filters. What is your take, each of you, on filters?
Don't use them. I've occasionally used ones that will do like color and tone changes on them depending on like lighting where I'm at, but
that's understandable.
Generally no
Right.
filters.
Photo filters for like, oh, I wish it was brighter outside, or I wish the sky looked more blue, or like, I wish I looked a little more tan.
Right.
Those filters I understand.
Yeah, but not face changing ones. I've accidentally used one years and years ago. I've never been a supporter of them. And then I watched back the reel that I did, and I was like, oh my God. And I was actually, no one knew, but I was pregnant at the time when I did the reel, and I just didn't realize I shot this thing for a jacket.
We were in a car. We were in a car one time with a couple friends, and the woman that we were with decided she was going to shoot a video of us all being in the car, not realizing that she had just a regular set, like a filter setting.
Or maybe not realizing how much it changed
on her phone.
The face.
Yeah. And so she put the camera in the back seat to shoot us, and I saw this filter, and I was mortified.
He was a woman. Bri was a woman with lashes and a little tiny nose
stubble
and
went
big
away.
lips.
I had like smoky eyes. It was a whole. It was a whole thing.
Yeah,
Brian, you've wanted smoky eyes for a while.
It's true.
He does talk about them
I
often.
fight for smoky eyes.
Yeah.
But I would like control of them. Not necessarily to just have them done for me in a filter.
I would love, Randy, if we just eliminated filters from social media. That's what I think would be the healthiest thing. I wish that we would take them away. I'm cool with the ones that originally came out, the puppy faces and the cute things that were on Snapchat all those years ago, the first ones. But this ability to see your face with, even some are called the perfect nose. You know what I mean? I think all of this is unhealthy, and I think should be wiped from social media. They should be gone.
I
Not
agree.
allowed.
Yeah.
I agree. That's my vote too.
Same.
Okay, so that's filters. What about plastic surgery?
I think plastic surgery is an incredible thing that medicine can do. I think even all the procedures that they can come up with, it's unbelievable, right? What they can do. And I think within reason, as we've said, depends on what you're going for. I think it depends on who you are on a case-by-case basis, that if you have the desire for something and the reasoning and the why of it makes sense, and you're not equating your happiness to the result of this, right? I think that is also a big thing. If you're not using this surgery for self-acceptance, right, that too, then I think surgery is a wonderful, wonderful gift for people. Plastic surgery also helps with reconstruction from injuries and fire.
Absolutely.
And
they do amazing work.
Magical what they can do, what they can give people that they may have lost. And so if that also helps people that maybe have a lifelong insecurity of, born with a very prominent hook nose, right? Absolutely.
Cleft lips,
cleft lips and I'm in
Yes.
full support of plastic surgery.
Yeah.
But I actually think there should be maybe some mental health around it.
There should be some
especially
guidelines.
for people that are electing from like one a year. You know what I mean? I think there should be some guidelines and some check-ins from mental health around like, okay, great, you're looking at getting XYZ done. Tell me about that. Tell me why we're heading into this area, or what that's looking like for you. What are you looking to get from it?
Like when I did special forces, they check in with me constantly to see how it is I'm feeling from the experience, where my head is. I had to do a whole sit down with them before I even signed on to do it. Why do you want to do this? What's going on? How is your child? They got into the weeds of my life. And I'm not saying that it needs to be that extreme, but I definitely think that
mental health check-ins
should be a part of the process, the mental health aspect of it as well.
Interesting. Okay, so maybe if doctors' offices don't provide that, then maybe if you're on the fence or you want to explore that yourself, you can seek out a mental health professional of some sort and have a couple sessions with them.
Just work through why.
Absolutely.
Just
and
work through
understand.
The why.
Yeah. Just say what it is you're thinking of doing and why, and what you're hoping the result will be, and see if it matches up, or if there's something else that's going on that is maybe pushing you more in that direction than you really need to go.
Yes. Okay. Comparison.
Will is the thief of joy. I think that Brene Brown said that.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
I just said thief, by the way. I would just like to point that out. I said thief of
thief.
joy. Comparison is the thief of joy by Brene Brown. She's an incredible, incredible woman. I'm sure most people know who she is. But I think that says it perfectly. I think comparison is the thief of joy. And I think it takes away from all the good that you're doing, or that you could do, all your possibilities and all your opportunities. I think comparison is a really, really difficult thing. I understand there are certain circumstances, there's always an exception to the rule, where you're comparing your business model to this one and you can learn from things, right?
Sure.
There, I think, are benefits to comparison.
Yeah, there are healthy ways to do it.
But when it comes to us as individuals, as
we're
our
losing our
appearance,
individuality.
Yeah. I think when you compare your appearance, your circumstances, your the cards you've been dealt, or the life that you have, I think that is where you can get into a slippery slope and a darker place than you want to be. Surgery aside, I think in life, comparison is something we all have to be very, very wary of.
Yeah, I would say 90% of comparison is unhealthy.
I agree with you.
There's 10% when someone does it consciously. Hey, so-and-so has done this. They have achieved this. I'm going to find out what their mindset was, how they did it, what their strategy was. But most of the time, we're not doing that. Most of the time when we're comparing, it is in a negative way. It's putting ourselves down. It is lack or less than.
Exactly.
So would you say being aware of when you're comparing and how you're comparing would be helpful?
Why you're comparing too, right? I mean, it's like you said, you've got you knowing that somebody has achieved something and going, "Ooh, I want to follow their lead a little bit because there's something to learn there." That's part of the why compared to just going, "Oh, I want what they have."
How do you redirect comparison, Randy? How do you if you find yourself in a state of comparison, wherever you are in life, you could be at the traffic light looking at someone next to you, or it could be Instagram, wherever in life. How do you recognize it and redirect yourself?
I don't think comparison is fair by nature, because you're never comparing apples to apples when you're comparing two human beings.
Totally.
It's like comparing a fingerprint. Everyone's is different. Everyone's path, everyone's journey is different. Your life experiences are different. There's overlap, but it's different. So to compare where I'm at, a lot of people, I get a lot of people who come to me and say, I'm just not where I want to be in life, right? I'm this age. I don't have this. I don't have that. This is all great because we can work on getting the things that they want to get. But first and foremost, it's the idea of who they're comparing to. They're comparing to an idea that they had of who they thought they were going to be at this age. They're comparing to their friends or colleagues or other people who, they might have a family, or they might have a certain amount of money, or they might have a certain type of house or car. And they're looking at themselves saying, well, I don't have this. So they're judging themselves. They're getting down on themselves. And I think when it comes to comparison, it's realizing you're being unfair to yourself. And when you're making that comparison, you're keeping yourself in a pit. So imagine, I like creative visualization. Imagine that you're down in a pit. And if you're feeling like you're in a pit, even better. You're keeping yourself down there by comparing in the ways that you are. If you want to use healthy comparison, look up people who have achieved what you want to achieve and know that that's possible for you. It's changing the question to how, what, what do I need to look at? What do I need to do? Who might I need to work with in some way to help me?
So use it as a motivator, right?
Use it as a motivator. Use it as footholds to get yourself out of the pit, one foothold at a time, as opposed to looking and going, oh, I'm not there. I'm not there. I'm not there.
Okay. I love that. Anyone?
You guys are so smart. It's unbelievable. I sit back sometimes and I think, God, I'm lucky. Sorry, go ahead, Randy.
I'm so lucky to be friends with Randy. I know that's what you're referring to, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you look at Sharna adoringly.
No. I mean, this whole situation, of course, absolutely, Sharna. But this whole situation, being able to do this podcast, get into these, and have people like the two of you that I can really sit back and listen to, and just I'm in complete awe of the things that you guys say and the way you look at them.
I love you, baby.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I want to read some articles because I think so many people compare themselves to celebrities.
Without realizing that they also do the same.
I have.
Yeah, totally.
Without realizing that I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
Who was I comparing myself to at one point? Oh, it was Mark Wahlberg. I was seeing his Instagram. He'd have this 4 a.m. club. He's up at 3. He's working out for 3 hours. He has 9.
Love that for him.
Right? Like 9 different brands. He's hustling. And I'm like, I am underachieving here.
Right. I'm really phoning it in compared to this guy.
Totally.
It's wild what he's created. What are the articles you want to read, Randy?
So Kate Winslet had one saying, what is here, has a huge impact on young women's self-esteem because all they ever do is design themselves for people to like them. And what comes along with that? Eating disorders. And that makes my blood boil. And is the reason we don't have any social media in our house. So
I totally get that.
She said this to the Sunday Times in 2015. I'd love to know if that has changed. I'm sure her kids are older. But here is a celebrity who is in the public eye, who's probably, all over media, and yet she doesn't have social media in her house. Here's someone who, you could live without it.
I think what's also really interesting about this is I believe 8 years ago, I don't know if we had Snapchat and the filters, and her concern was eating disorders. And that's actually something we didn't even touch on in this episode, which is still so very, very true. Eating disorders are still a rampant thing in our youth because they have body dysmorphia and this belief that they should be different or thinner. I think it also exists in 20s and 30s and 40-year-olds still because of this belief that skinny is healthy or skinny is pretty or skinny is sexy. And it really is unfortunate. And I agree with everything that Kate Winslet said because I think it does lead to disorders of many kinds. And I love that she didn't have it in her home. I wonder, again, like you, 8 years later, her kids probably do have it. But it's gotten worse since 2015.
Way worse. I was looking up statistics about when we were doing the episode about distractions, and the social media use went up. I think it was all over the map from 20% to 60%. In people. So you look at just those 2 years of COVID and how much social media use went up. I can only imagine with filters and, now there's AI. It's
forget it. Oh, the photos that everyone posts that an AI generates so they look like they were from the 90s. Like, let me just get my photo album out. You know what I mean? I've got the real ones.
I did not do that trend. There was a trend where everyone was making an AI version of themselves. Do you remember this about a year ago?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want an AI version of myself.
Well, the thing is, back then there was this outrage about taking work away from actual graphic designers that can do these things and earn money. Now everyone's using an app to do it. And it's like, well, everyone was outraged then, but now it's happening again a year later and it's more widely accepted. But it's still true. AI is doing so many things for people now. But yeah, I saw that trend. I didn't do either of them.
By the way, just in terms of weight, this might be a whole separate conversation because I think this is something that is polarized. And I think it's something at some point that we should get into is weight, because there's body shaming on both sides all around.
We talk about that all the time.
Right?
I get it all the time now. You're too skinny. What happened? Yeah, after baby, what did you do? How did you do it? Like I get these things. It's like, you just saw me pregnant. Like, of course I look skinny in comparison to being pregnant. How did you do? Like, it's just, I get it. And then I used to previously get that I was too masculine or too muscular, like when I would ebb and flow between being super muscular or not. It usually depended on how hard to get around the floor my celebrity was, how much back muscle I developed that season. But I've had comments about my body all the time. And I've never been an overweight person, but it's either I've still had too big or too skinny. Isn't that crazy?
How do you deal with that? Because I remember, for instance, Adele, right? She got all of these comments, I'm sure, for years about her weight. Then all of a sudden she lost weight. And then people were shaming her for losing weight. And it's like,
it's ridiculous.
You can't win.
Randy, I don't know. You cannot win. You cannot please everybody. And I think that maybe has to do with the people that get angry are because Adele had represented something for them that they found comfort in, right? And then she made these different choices in her life and her body changed and she no longer represented that for those people. And so they're angry about it because who they looked to feel like they had someone like them now is no longer like them. Or they have been, used to look like Adele and they've been struggling to lose that weight and look like Adele now, and haven't been able to do that. And so there's anger and resentment in that fuels that comment of too thin and mad at her for having done what she's done. And I think you cannot please those people. You cannot expect to please everybody when it comes to that. You can only do things that are healthy for your own body, because truly someone is always going to be mad no matter what happens. Whether you gain weight or you lose weight, someone's going to be mad. When you're a public figure, I mean.
Well, that gets into the side of realizing that if you're not going to be able to please everybody, you need to stop trying to please people in general, other than just pleasing yourself in a situation.
Agreed, absolutely. What's right and healthy for you, I think, is a big one.
Right.
Yes, you hear what you were mentioning a lot is you'll have a friend group. They might all eat together, or they might all drink together. And then someone comes in and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing this way of eating. I'm not eating bread, or I'm not eating this." And people get upset and they start
annoyed
to
at
make
it,
comments.
right? Like, "Oh, why? Oh, just eat the bread. Just eat it. Who cares? It's one time." Yeah, people get really mad about someone trying to make choices for themselves.
Yeah.
Why?
So Brian, what you said, if you can't please everyone, stop trying to please everyone and only focus on pleasing yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
What about for you, Brian? I mean, you've grown up in the industry, in the public eye, on camera.
Yeah.
People have comments. I mean, have you had to deal with any, I don't know, whether it's weight or whether it's look or whether it's aging?
I went through a phase where when social media was really starting to become prevalent in society, of comments really affecting me, and anybody commenting about anything, about the way my hair was looking, what I was wearing, who I was with, it was literally just people commenting about anything and everything. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I really changed my view of it. And instead of taking offense to what people said in comments, I would try and find the humor in those things, and realizing that the people that were commenting don't honestly know me. They have no idea who I am as a person. So they are commenting on me based on some random picture they saw, or something they heard, or something that they're reflecting their own views of themselves, or their own insecurities, or their own things on me to try and feel better about themselves. So I don't read comments anymore and relate them to myself. I honestly have realized at this point that they are somebody's view of a me that they don't actually know.
A version of you they created.
Right. It's a version that they see in projects that I do, or they see in this podcast, or they see in magazines or tabloid shots, or me coming out of a store. So they're not, they say all these things that honestly, if I step far enough away from them, I can find the humor in these things sometimes that people say, and they'll make me laugh out loud, because I'm not reading a comment about myself, even though it's directed towards me. I'm almost reading a funny greeting card on a store shelf. There's no association between what they're saying about me directly, or they think they're saying to me directly, and what actually is coming to me. It's two different worlds. And I try and keep myself as separated as possible.
It's an incredibly healthy outlook, and I don't think that's easy for a lot of people.
No, it's not easy, and it's not something.
It's an amazing.
It's not something
thing
that I did naturally. It's that conscious living thing again, of making the conscious choice every time, of knowing if somebody said something, taking a second, going, okay, don't forget they really have no idea who you are. They don't know. They're not in your shoes. They're not, parenting like you are. They're not in your house. They're not. And so it becomes a practice. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. Could we do like a conscious living boot camp?
Oh,
like a 3-day. Brian's like, no more boot camp. I'm done.
No, because honestly, I would let you run the boot camp, because I constantly need that boot camp as it is. I every single day come up against things where I go, that is not the way I want to be thinking or dealing with this. And so it's that conscious living is, it takes work every day. And I understand, they speak about the road less traveled, and I never completely understood that concept. But of course it's the road less traveled because it's a harder road to travel on. It's way easier to kind of go with the flock and just sort of blend in and do what society is doing compared to stepping out on your own, because you open yourself up to criticism. You open yourself up to judgment. You open yourself up to self-doubt. But God, the rewards from being on that road that is more difficult are incredible, because I'm in a relationship that I love. I'm at a point with my kids where I know they truly understand how much I love them, and that everything I say and I do comes from that place first. So it takes time to get there, but it takes conscious living to be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Conscious
Maybe you should
living
run the boot camp.
boot camp.
No,
Because
I'm
no.
down. Randy, let's do it. A conscious
can-
living boot camp. I'll like host a class, but I'll also just participate in it.
I'll put
'cause
my
I think
face
we
on the
all
sticker,
need it.
I'll put
Yeah.
like Colonel Sanders. I'll throw my name, my
that.
face on the side of the bucket, but I don't claim to know any better than anyone else.
To go back to some of the articles, Randy, that you were talking about, because I have them in front of me too. And I think it's really interesting because there are women here speaking about, think Bella Hadid, a model, you know what I mean? Speaking about things. She'd had a rhinoplasty and wished that she didn't get that. And she had it at age 14.
14 years old.
Who in their right mind does a rhinoplasty on a 14-year-old? That to me is just irresponsible, honestly, in both parenting and the medical professional that did do that surgery. One of, I think, the most followed woman on Instagram is Selena Gomez, and even she has to take breaks from social media because she has said that it's been really terrible for her generation. She says that it does scare her when you see how exposed young boys and young girls are. They are not aware of the news or anything that goes on. I think it's dangerous for sure, and I don't think people are getting the right information. She also goes on to say, you can't avoid it sometimes. I delete the app from my phone at least once a week because you can fixate on all the negative ones. I believe she's talking about comments. Things like, you're ugly. Selena Gomez getting comments of, you're ugly. I mean... Right. She's the most followed and one of the most gorgeous women, has a beauty line, and even she has to delete the app because of these comments that are coming up on her page. And it's just so unfortunate that we receive these things and we receive these comments. But I think that is even an example that no matter how beautiful you are, no matter how much of a beautiful inside and outside you are, people are all subject to these comments because someone is going to feel triggered and unhappy by seeing you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about Bella Hadid is that she said that she really regrets getting the rhinoplasty. She regrets changing her nose because she said that this was the nose of her ancestors and she really wanted to embrace that now. And this goes back to what you said, Brian. It could be a fad. Like, this is what's in now to look a certain way. And then however many years later, you look back and you go, gosh, but I did that, and I really wish that I hadn't. There's no take backs there.
There's no take backs. Right. You cannot put back what you've taken out of the body. It's true.
Yeah.
Even Halle Berry, who was probably on so many teenage boys' walls and possibly still is, because look at her, she's incredible.
On the walls in my mind, for sure.
Has felt the pressures to get right?
Yeah.
And mine.
Oh, yeah.
Has felt the pressures to get plastic surgery. She says it is pressure. When you see everybody around you doing it, you have those moments when you think, to stay alive in this business, do I need to do the same thing? She says, I won't lie and tell you that those things don't cross my mind because somebody is always suggesting it to me. It's almost like crack that people are trying to push on you. I just want to always look like myself, even if that's an older version of myself. I think when you do too much of that cosmetic stuff, you become somebody else in a way. It's a really well put statement or comment that she made. But to think that she's had pressure from the industry about getting things done. I mean, I look at her and just see pure perfection. What on earth would you change about this woman? That's madness to me.
And that it's crossed her mind, that she has thought about it.
Exactly.
Someone who is, perfect in so many ways. You would say, oh my gosh, they're beautiful. They're gorgeous.
Seen is perfect. Yeah, exactly.
Seen is perfect, right? And then still it crosses her mind. So look, I think everyone probably comes up against this as they age, as they feel pressure in society. And this is why we wanted to have this conversation and open this up for all of you, for the listeners, to share your story, to think about where you're at now. And again, this isn't to say that you might not do something or want to do something. It's about realizing and becoming aware of how there might be pressure all around you, how there's comparison, how what you are consuming on a daily basis, whether it's media, whether it's social media, whether it's magazines, there is this pressure and comparison to look a certain way. Again, let's start to make oldish cool, right? Some of the lines, some of the whatever they're called, crow's feet or 11s or whatever. Yeah. It's like you've made it this far. You've lived. You have a certain set of experiences. And if we move into conscious living and how to show up better every day, I'm not saying it's going to take the place of, being smoothed out or looking a certain way. If you want to do that, okay, for the right reasons, but also this way of conscious living, bring the balance to it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I would just, in full transparency, want, to say, because again, who people are comparing themselves to on social media are always doing something. And I saw it on a post the other day. If you're seeing a woman who is in her mid to late 30s or older who looks like she doesn't have a wrinkle, then she's doing something. You know what I mean? And even for people looking at me, and I share this on my social media anyway, so people would know this if they follow me, but I do Botox. I do it in my forehead because I have these frown lines. But you know where that insecurity came from? My mum, that would constantly talk about her deep frown lines, to circle it back to that language about ourselves. But I do the laser treatments and the tightening treatments and all the things. So to even compare themselves to what I look like on social media at 38, I've done a lot of work at pausing that aging process.
I don't think it's not about the judgment of doing the actual things. It's having the conversation of really figuring out what you want to do them for and making sure that you're doing them for the right reasons. If you're doing them just for your own state of mind and looking in the mirror and thinking, God, I wish this was smoother, I wish this was, then we're all for that. But if you're doing that to do what you think society will accept,
or a beauty trend of some sort, these things where people are getting their eyebrows,
that's a hole you can never. It's a hole you can never fill.
Yeah,
it's an emptiness that will not be filled, no matter how much money you spend on work, because you're looking in the wrong directions.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Well said. Mm-hmm. So we want to hear from you. Where are you at with this? Have you done something? Have you considered doing something?
Do you regret doing something?
God, yeah.
Do you regret doing something?
And this'll come up a lot more too, by the way. This isn't like a one-time conversation, I'm sure, on this show. This will probably end up being somewhere around a 10-part series, because it's so deep.
Nuance.
Social media and people's perceptions of themselves, that runs so deep, and there are so many issues that can lead to unhealthy behaviors and unhealthy fixations. And we're just sort of scratching the surface on it, but we want to open up the conversation to other people. So it's not just us having it in a vacuum and for you to listen to. We want everyone to be as much a part of this as they want to be. So please, Randy was saying, reach out to us. There are different ways of doing that. You can DM us at Oldish Pod. You can call our hotline, 855-OLDISH-3. You can reach us there. You can leave a message, and you can be in on the discussion with us. every Thursday, and I'm always so curious to see what people's takeaway is from what it is we discuss, and what new aspects of conversations can be opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially by your questions.
Yeah.
So your takeaways are great. Your opinions and also the questions. Yeah,
Yes.
suggestions, questions that you have for us that we could get into on the Q&A in a couple days.
Yeah, we would love that. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Oldish. You guys are awesome, and we love hearing your feedback.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yes, you guys are amazing. Make sure you guys go and follow us on Instagram at @OldishPod. And you can also go and leave us a message at our own hotline, which is 855-OLDISH3.
Make sure and write us a review. Leave us 5 stars if you loved it. Leave us 5 stars if you didn't.
We
It
love
helps.
5 stars. We love 5 stars.
Yeah.
Give
We
us
like
all
5
the
stars.
Yeah. See you
All
next
right.
week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next week, everyone.